Olivia Martinez stood in line with 11 other humans. They wore the blue and silver uniforms of Earth Space Academy. The large hall on Harmony Point Space Station was cold, much colder than humans liked. "They keep it at Vrekian standard temperature," whispered Peter Jones, the cadet next to her. "Apparently their home world is about 10 degrees colder than Earth." Olivia nodded but said nothing. She was too busy watching the Vrekians enter from the other side of the hall. They were tall, at least 7 feet, with scaled skin in shades of green and blue. Their powerful bodies moved with surprising grace. The Vrekian cadets wore red and black uniforms that showed off their muscular frames. "First human Vrekian joint training program," said Peter. "We're making history." Olivia knew that. Everyone knew that. After the war ended 2 years ago, the peace treaty required cooperation. This program was the first step. 12 human cadets would train with 20 Vrekian cadets. They would learn to work together. It was an honor to be chosen. But looking at the Vrekians, Olivia felt small. Humans were weaker and slower. The average Vrekian could lift 3 times what a strong human could. Their reflexes were faster too. The only advantage humans had was their thinking. Humans were more creative, more adaptable. "Attention," called a human officer. Captain Alan Boyd was the human liaison for the program. "Commander Zar Kalish will now address the cadets." A Vrekian stepped forward. He was larger than the others. His scales were dark blue with gray streaks, showing his age and experience. A scar ran down the left side of his face. His yellow eyes scanned the human cadets slowly. "I am Commander Zar Kalish," he said in perfect English. His voice was deep and rough. "I have served in the Vrekian fleet for 30 cycles. I fought against your kind in the war." The room grew tense. Everyone knew that thousands had died on both sides during the 3-year conflict. "Now I am told to teach you," continued Zar Kalish. "The High Command believes this program will strengthen both our peoples." He paused. "I have my doubts." Captain Boyd frowned but said nothing. "Vrekians have dominated space in this sector for 500 cycles," said Zar Kalish. "We are stronger. We are faster. We have better technology. These are facts." Olivia felt anger rising in her chest, but kept her face calm. This was exactly what she expected. Many Vrekians thought humans were weak and didn't belong in space. "But," said Zar Kalish, surprising everyone, "you survived our first attacks. You adapted. You found ways to fight that we did not expect. That is interesting." He walked closer to the human line. When he reached Olivia, he stopped. She was the smallest of the human cadets at only 5'4". Next to the commander, she looked like a child. "This one," he said, looking down at her. "Why was she selected?" Captain Boyd stepped forward. Cadet Martinez graduated top of her class in tactical thinking and adaptability. She scored highest in all simulations. Zar Kalish made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Simulations are not reality." "No, sir, they're not," said Olivia, speaking directly to him. "Reality is much more interesting." Several gasps came from both human and Vrekian cadets. Speaking to a commander without permission was against protocol. Zar Kalish's yellow eyes narrowed. "You address me without permission, small one." "I apologize, Commander," said Olivia, standing straighter. "I meant no disrespect." For several seconds, Zar Kalish stared at her. Then he turned away. "Training begins tomorrow at 600 station time," he announced. "Do not be late. Vrekians value punctuality." He looked back at Olivia. "And respect for rank." As the commander left the hall with the Vrekian cadets following, Captain Boyd approached Olivia. "That was bold, Martinez," he said quietly. "Was it a mistake, sir?" she asked. Boyd watched the last Vrekian leave. "I don't know yet, but I think you just became the focus of Commander Zar Kalish's attention." He sighed. "That could be good or very, very bad." Olivia nodded. She had wanted this assignment desperately. Humans needed to prove themselves as equals. But now, watching the powerful aliens leave, She wondered what she had gotten herself into. 3 weeks passed on Harmony Point Space Station. Olivia Martinez wiped sweat from her forehead. The training room was still too cold for humans, but the exercise had been intense. She had just finished the zero-gravity combat simulation, scoring higher than any other cadet, human or Vrikian. "Not bad for a small one," said a voice behind her. Olivia turned to see a female Vrikian. Her scales were light green with blue patterns. Unlike most Vrikians, she didn't tower over Olivia with obvious superiority. "Thank you," said Olivia. "You're Nextora, right?" The Vrikian nodded. "And you are the human who speaks to commanders without permission." Olivia felt her face grow warm. That was a mistake. "Perhaps," said Nextora, "but many Vrikians found it interesting. We value strength, even when it is not physical." They walked together toward the water station. Several Vrikian cadets watched them with curious eyes. "They don't approve of you talking to me," said Olivia. Nextora made a gesture that Olivia had learned was a Vrikian shrug. "Some believe we should not mix with humans. They think you are too weak." "And what do you think?" asked Olivia. "I think you just beat Krev Vor's simulation score, and he is twice your size." Nextora's mouth moved in what might have been a smile. "He is not happy about it." Olivia glanced across the room where a large male Vrikian was glaring at her. Krev Vor had made it clear from the first day that he thought humans didn't belong in space. "There is something you should understand about Vrikians," said Nextora, lowering her voice. "Physical touch has meaning for us. A hand on the shoulder from a superior is praise. A push from an equal is challenge. And a slap," asked Olivia. "That is for discipline. When a superior slaps a subordinate, it shows dominance. The subordinate must bow to show respect." Nextora looked at Olivia carefully. "If this happens, you must bow. If you don't, it is seen as rebellion. In human culture, hitting someone is assault," said Olivia. "It's against our laws." "This is why there are misunderstandings," said Nextora. "What we see as normal, you see as wrong." Before Olivia could respond, Commander Zar Kalish entered the training room. Everyone immediately stood at attention. "Tomorrow," announced the commander, "we begin joint team exercises. You will work in mixed groups, human and Vrikian together." Murmurs spread through the room. This was earlier than expected. "Cadet Martinez," called Zar Kalish. Olivia stepped forward. "Yes, Commander." "You will lead Team 3 with Cadet Krev Vor as your second." Olivia heard Krev Vor's angry hiss from across the room. Being second to a human was clearly an insult to him. "May I ask why, Commander?" said Olivia. Zar Kalish's yellow eyes studied her. "You have shown tactical skill. Krev Vor has shown physical power. Together, you may be effective." He paused. "Or you may fail spectacularly. Either way, it will be educational." Olivia knew this was a test. The commander was watching her closely these days, studying her performance in every exercise. "Thank you for the opportunity, Commander," she said. As Zar Kalish left, Krev Vor approached Olivia. He stood very close, using his height to intimidate her. "I will not take orders from a human," he said. "Then we will fail," replied Olivia calmly. "And I don't think you like failing." Krev Vor's scales darkened with anger. "You think you are clever. But tomorrow's exercise is in the outer ring. The gravity will be higher. You will be even weaker there." He walked away, leaving the threat hanging in the air. Peter Jones joined Olivia. "That didn't look friendly." "It wasn't," she said. "The commander is pairing me with the cadet who hates humans the most." "Want to trade?" asked Peter. "I got partnered with one who keeps asking if humans are really mammals." Olivia laughed despite her worry. "No, I need to make this work. The commander is testing me." "Testing all of us," said Peter. "The question is, what happens if we fail?" The joint exercise was going badly. Olivia stood at the control panel in the simulation room, trying to keep her focus despite the higher gravity in this section of the station. Her muscles ached from the extra weight pulling on her body. "You're doing it wrong," said Krevvor, pushing her aside. Humans cannot handle complex navigation. Olivia bit back an angry response. For 3 hours, they had tried to complete the exercise, guiding a virtual ship through an asteroid field while defending against enemy attacks. Each time, Krevvor ignored her suggestions and took control. Each time, they failed. "The problem isn't the navigation," said Olivia. "It's the timing. We need to slow down in Sector 4, then boost through Sector 5. Slowing down gives the enemy more time to target us," argued Krevvor. Commander Zar Kalish watched from the observation deck above. His yellow eyes missed nothing. 5 other teams had already completed the exercise. Only Team 3 was still struggling. "Let me try once my way," said Olivia. "If it doesn't work, you can lead the next attempt." Krevvor hissed in frustration but stepped back from the panel. "One try." Olivia took a deep breath and started the simulation again. The virtual ship appeared on the main screen, moving toward the asteroid field. She carefully adjusted the speed, slowing down as they entered Sector 4. "Too slow," said Krevvor. "The enemy will." "Wait," said Olivia. As they entered Sector 4, 3 enemy ships appeared on the radar. But instead of speeding up to escape them, Olivia guided their ship behind a large asteroid. "What are you doing?" demanded Krevvor. "They will surround us." "Watch," said Olivia. The enemy ships spread out, searching for them. Olivia waited until they were in position, then suddenly increased power and shot forward. The move surprised the enemy ships, and they collided with each other, trying to change course. "Now for Sector 5, said Olivia. She pushed the ship to maximum speed through the narrow path in Sector 5. Krevvor watched in silence as they cleared the asteroid field and completed the exercise. "Simulation successful," announced the computer. Olivia looked up at the observation deck where Commander Zar Kalish nodded slightly. "You?" started Krevvor. "You use the asteroids against them." "Sometimes being smaller gives you advantages," said Olivia. "You can hide in places others can't follow." For the first time, Krevvor looked at her with something other than contempt. "Perhaps you are not entirely useless, human." Coming from him, it was almost a compliment. The door to the simulation room opened, and Steve Grayson, another human cadet, rushed in. He was late for his team's turn. "Sorry I'm late, Commander," he called to Zar Kalish, who had come down from the observation deck. "Explain," demanded the commander. "I got confused with the station layout," said Steve. "I went to the wrong section." Zar Kalish's face showed displeasure. "This is unacceptable. Your team cannot begin without you, and now they must wait." "I understand, sir. It won't happen again." "See that it doesn't," said Zar Kalish. He turned to Olivia and Krevvor. "Your team may leave." As they walked toward the door, the computer terminal where Steve was preparing the simulation suddenly flashed warning signals. "What did you do?" asked his Rikian partner. "I just entered the coordinates," said Steve, looking confused. Olivia glanced at the screen and saw the problem immediately. "You've set the gravity simulator to Earth normal. It will damage the equipment. It's calibrated for Vrikian standard here." She quickly moved to the terminal and corrected the settings. The warning signal stopped. Commander Zar Kalish watched this with narrow eyes. He stepped forward, his large frame towering over Olivia. "You corrected another cadet's mistake," he said. "It wasn't a question." "Yes, Commander," said Olivia. "The wrong setting could have." Before she could finish, Zar Kalish's hand moved in a blur. His palm connected with the side of her face in a loud slap that echoed through the room. Time seemed to slow down. Olivia saw the shocked faces of the human cadets. She saw the Vrikians watching, waiting for her to bow in submission as their customs demanded. She saw Nextora's warning eyes, reminding her about Vrikian hierarchy. But her body was already moving. First, second. The commander's scaled hand connected with Olivia's face. The force was enough to make her head turn, but she didn't fall. The sound echoed in the quiet room. Human cadets gasped. Vrikian cadets waited for her to bow in submission. Commander Zarkelish's yellow eyes stared down at her. His face showed no emotion. This was normal for him. This was Vrikian discipline. A small drop of blood appeared at the corner of Olivia's mouth, where her lip had split against her teeth. Second. Instead of stepping back and bowing as Vrikian culture demanded, Olivia's body moved forward. Years of combat training took over. Her muscles remembered what to do even before her mind could think. She stepped into the strike, closing the distance between herself and the much larger alien. A basic rule of Earth combat training. When facing a stronger opponent, get closer, not farther away. The commander's eyes widened slightly. No Vrikian had ever moved toward him after discipline. They always stepped back and bowed. Third. Olivia's hands moved in a precise pattern. Her left hand grabbed the commander's wrist, holding it firmly. Her right hand positioned itself above his elbow. The Vrikian's arm was thick with muscle and covered in tough scales. It was at least twice as strong as a human arm. Under normal circumstances, a human could never overpower a Vrikian. But Olivia wasn't trying to overpower him. She was using leverage. Another Earth combat principle. Use your opponent's strength against them. Zarkelish began to pull his arm back, but it was already too late. Fourth. With a quick twist and sharp pressure at exactly the right point, Olivia applied the wrist lock technique she had learned in her first year at Earth Space Academy. The move was designed to work against any humanoid anatomy. There was a loud cracking sound, like dry branches breaking. The commander's wrist bent at an unnatural angle. The joint had snapped in multiple places. Complete silence filled the room. No one moved. No one spoke. Commander Zarkelish stared at his broken wrist, then at the small human female who had done this to him. His expression showed shock, then something that might have been respect. Olivia immediately stepped back and stood at attention. Blood trickled from her split lip. Her heart pounded in her chest as she realized what she had done. She started, but no more words came. The commander held up his good hand, silencing her. He looked around the room at the stunned faces of both species. Interesting, he said finally, his voice calm despite his injury. Very interesting. Captain Boyd rushed into the room, his face pale. Commander, what happened? The security system alerted me to a physical altercation. Zarkelish turned to him. A cultural exchange, Captain. Most educational. The security cameras had recorded the entire incident from multiple angles. The footage would be reviewed by both human and Vrikian authorities. Every detail would be analyzed. 4 seconds that might change relations between their species forever. Medical team to Simulation Room 3, called Captain Boyd into his communicator. No, said Zarkelish firmly. I do not require assistance. But your wrist will heal, finished the commander. He looked at Olivia again. Cadet Martinez, and I have much to discuss. The rest of you are dismissed. The other cadets hesitated, then began to leave the room. Peter gave Olivia a worried look as he passed. Krevor stared at her with new eyes, no longer seeing just a weak human. When everyone else had gone, Zarkelish sat down heavily on a bench. For the first time, he seemed to acknowledge his pain, holding his broken wrist carefully. In 500 cycles, he said quietly, no non-Vrikian has ever responded to discipline in such a way. I apologize, Commander, said Olivia, still standing at attention. My training responded automatically. Zarkelish made a sound that might have been a laugh. You broke my wrist in 4 seconds, Cadet. That is not something that happens automatically. What happens now? Asked Olivia. Will I be expelled from the program? The commander looked at her for a long moment. That, he said, depends on many factors, none of which we control. Word of the incident spread through Harmony Point faster than an airlock breach. By the next morning, every human and Vrikian on the station knew what had happened. The security footage had been reviewed by officials from both species, and now a diplomatic crisis was brewing. Olivia sat alone in her quarters, under what they called protective isolation. It felt more like punishment. No one had told her what would happen next. She hadn't seen Commander Czar Hillish since the incident. Her comm unit beeped. It was Captain Boyd. "Martinez, the Vrikian High Command has requested a meeting with you," he said, his face serious. "I'll escort you there in 20 minutes. "Am I being sent home?" asked Olivia. "I don't know," said Boyd honestly. "This situation is complicated." When the captain arrived, they walked in silence through the station. Other crew members stared as they passed. Some humans nodded in support. Most Vrikians watched with unreadable expressions. The meeting room was large and formal. A group of high-ranking Vrikians sat on one side of a long table. Earth representatives sat on the other side. In the center, on a large screen, was the Vrikian ambassador to Earth. Cadet Martinez, said a human official Olivia didn't recognize. "Please stand in the center." Olivia did as instructed. All eyes were on her. "We have reviewed the footage of yesterday's incident," said the Vrikian ambassador. His scales were almost white with age. "It is unprecedented. Ambassador, my client was responding to what in human terms would be classified as assault," said a woman in a formal suit. Olivia realized this was a lawyer assigned to defend her. In Vrikian culture, it was standard discipline, countered a Vrikian official. Commander Czar Kalish acted appropriately for a superior officer. The debate continued, with each side arguing about cultural differences and proper protocols. Olivia stood silently, feeling like a specimen under a microscope. "What does Commander Czar Kalish say about this?" asked Captain Boyd suddenly. The room grew quiet. Then the door opened, and Commander Czar Kalish entered. His broken wrist was wrapped in a simple bandage. He hadn't used any medical technology to heal it. "I have something to say," he announced. Everyone turned to listen. The commander rarely spoke at diplomatic meetings. Cadet Martinez did exactly what a Vrikian would do if challenged by an equal, said Czar Kalish. She defended herself with skill and precision. Murmurs spread through the room. "But she is not your equal," said a Vrikian official. "She is a cadet. You are a commander." "In rank, yes," agreed Czar Kalish. "But her actions proved her worthy of respect." He held up his bandaged wrist. "This is a lesson I will remember." "You refuse medical treatment," said Captain Boyd. "Why?" "Among Vrikians, a warrior's first significant injury is a mark of experience," explained Czar Kalish. "It is traditional to let it heal naturally." The human officials looked confused. The Vrikians seemed surprised but understanding. "Commander," said the Vrikian ambassador carefully, "are you saying you consider this incident a positive event?" "I am saying it taught me something valuable," replied Czar Kalish. "Humans appear weak, but they have developed ways to overcome physical disadvantages. This is worth studying." "Nevertheless," said a stern human official, "we cannot have a training program where physical discipline is used on human cadets. And we cannot change centuries of Vrikian military tradition," countered a Vrikian. The argument started again. Olivia still stood in the center, feeling caught between two worlds. Finally, she spoke. "May I say something?" The room fell silent. "I respect Vrikian traditions," she said clearly. "But I can't change how my body was trained to respond. Maybe both sides need to learn new ways to work together." The ambassador studied her for a long moment. Perhaps the cadet has the right idea. "This incident highlights the need for better cultural understanding. Rather than punish either party, we could use this as an opportunity to develop proper interspecies protocols." "What exactly are you suggesting?" asked the human lawyer. "A cultural exchange program," said the ambassador, "with Cadet Martinez and Commanders R. Kalish as its first participants." Olivia looked at the commander. His yellow eyes met hers. He nodded slightly. "The incident will be classified as a cultural misunderstanding," continued the ambassador, "and both parties will work together to ensure it doesn't happen again." As the officials discussed details, Olivia realized she wasn't being sent home. Instead, she was being pushed further into the center of human-Vrekian relations. For better or worse, her 4 seconds of action had changed everything. 3 days after the incident, Olivia walked through the Vrekian section of Harmony Point. She had permission to be there, but still felt uncomfortable as the only human among the tall aliens. Several Vrekians stopped to watch her pass. Their expressions were hard to read. She reached the training area where a group of Vrekian cadets were practicing combat moves. Next, Tora saw her first and approached. "The human arrives," she said. "We wondered if you would come." "I was invited," said Olivia. "Commander Zar Kalish asked me to observe Vrekian training methods." The other cadets had stopped practicing and formed a circle around Olivia. She recognized Krev Vor among them. He stepped forward. "Show us," he said. "Show you what?" asked Olivia. "The move. The one you used on the commander." Olivia hesitated. "I'm not sure that's appropriate." "It is exactly appropriate," said a deep voice from the doorway. Commander Zar Kalish entered, his injured wrist still in a simple bandage. "That is why you are here." The Vrekian cadets immediately stood at attention. The commander walked to the center of the room and gestured for Olivia to join him. "Cadet Martinez will demonstrate human defensive techniques," he announced, "and we will show her Vrekian methods. This exchange of knowledge begins today." Olivia stepped forward, surprised. She had expected punishment, or at least criticism. Instead, the commander was treating her like an instructor. "But sir, your wrist," she started, "is healing well," he finished. "You will work with Cadet next Tora today." For the next hour, Olivia demonstrated basic human defensive moves. The Vrekians watched with interest, especially the techniques that used an opponent's strength against them. "Humans develop these methods because we are physically weaker than many species," explained Olivia. "We had to find ways to overcome that disadvantage." "Clever," said Nextora, as she practiced a wrist lock with Olivia. "Vrekians rarely need such techniques. We rely on strength and speed." "Which works well against those who are weaker," said Commander Zar Kalish, watching closely, "but not against those who are stronger or those who know these methods." After the training session, the commander asked Olivia to walk with him. They moved through the corridors of the station in silence for several minutes. "The diplomatic situation is complex," he said finally. "Many Vrekians believe I was right to discipline you. Many humans believe you were right to defend yourself." "And what do you believe, Commander?" asked Olivia. Zar Kalish stopped walking and turned to her. "I believe we were both right, according to our own cultures, and both wrong for failing to understand each other's ways." He held up his injured wrist. "This has taught me more than many years of diplomatic talks. Pain is an effective teacher. Among humans, we would say experience is the best teacher," said Olivia. The commander made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Perhaps our species are not so different after all." As they continued walking, they passed a group of human cadets. Peter Jones and Steve Grayson were among them. They stared in shock at seeing Olivia walking casually with the commander. "Your fellow humans still fear me," observed Zar Kalish. "They will learn," said Olivia, "just as the Vrekians will learn about us." When they reached the main hall, Captain Boyd was waiting with several officials from both species. "Cadet Martinez, Commander Zar Kalish," said Boyd. "The Joint Council has decided to expand the cultural exchange program. They want you both to develop a training module on interspecies interactions." "Us?" asked Olivia, surprised. "Who better?" said a Vrekian official. "The commander has centuries of experience, and you, Cadet, have demonstrated unusual adaptability. This incident has forced both sides to acknowledge the need for better understanding," added a human representative. "What happened in 4 seconds has accelerated our cooperation by years." Olivia looked at Commander Zar Kalish. His yellow eyes met hers, and for the first time, she saw clear respect in them. "I accept this assignment," said the commander. "As do I," said Olivia. They would build something new together, a bridge between two very different worlds. And it had all started with a slap and a broken wrist. 2 weeks passed since Olivia and Commander Zar Kalish began working on the interspecies training program. The news of their project had spread beyond Harmony Point. Officials from both Earth and the Vrekian homeworld were watching with interest. Olivia sat in the new cross-species training room they had designed. It had areas with Earth-standard gravity and temperature on one side, and Vrekian settings on the other. The middle section could be adjusted as needed. "The physical accommodation is only the beginning," she explained to Captain Boyd and several visiting officials. "The real challenge is understanding the cultural differences." Commander Zar Kalish entered the room. His injured wrist had healed enough that he no longer needed a bandage, though he still could not use it at full strength. "Today we demonstrate the practical applications," he announced. 6 human cadets and 6 Vrekian cadets filed into the room, including Peter, Steve, Nextora, and Krevor. They had been working with Olivia and the commander to test the new protocols. "Cadet Jones, please explain the first principle," said Olivia. Peter stepped forward. "Physical contact between species must be understood in cultural context. What is casual to one species may be deeply offensive to another." "And the solution?" prompted Zar Kalish. "Clear communication and established protocols," said Peter. "For example, we have developed the permission gesture that is recognized by both humans and Vrekians." He demonstrated a simple hand movement that was neutral to both cultures but clearly visible. "This has already prevented 3 potential incidents," noted Olivia. The officials nodded, impressed. A human representative asked, "And what about discipline issues? How do you handle those without physical contact?" "Cadet Krevor, please respond," said the commander. To everyone's surprise, Krevor stepped forward. Once the most anti-human Vrekian cadet, he had become an unexpected supporter of the program. "Vrekians now understand that humans respond better to verbal correction," he explained. "We have adapted our training methods accordingly. And humans have learned to accept direct criticism without taking offense," added Steve. "Vrekians are not being rude. They are being efficient." The demonstration continued, with pairs of human and Vrekian cadets showing how they work together using the new protocols. The visiting officials were clearly impressed. Later, after everyone had left, Olivia and Commander Zar Kalish remained in the training room. "They will implement our program fleet-wide," said the commander. "Both Earth and Vrekian vessels." "All because you slapped me," said Olivia with a small smile. "And you broke my wrist," added Zar Kalish. His voice held no anger, only a kind of respect. "Your wrist has healed well," observed Olivia. "Yes, but I keep it as a reminder." The commander flexed his wrist carefully. "Among Vrekians, there is an old saying, 'The strongest scales grow where the skin was once broken.' Humans say something similar. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger." Zar Kalish nodded. "Once again, we find common ground." They walked together toward the observation window that looked out into space. A small Earth ship was docking with the station. "Your replacement has arrived," said the commander. Olivia looked at him in surprise. "Replacement? You have been promoted, Lieutenant Martinez." Olivia blinked in shock. "Lieutenant." Both Earth and Vrekian commands agreed. "You will serve as the official interspecies liaison officer, the first of your kind." Olivia stared out at the stars, processing this news. When she had first arrived at Harmony Point, she only wanted to prove that humans belonged in space. Now she would help shape how species interacted. "And you, Commander?" she asked. "What happens to you?" "I will continue to command here, but also serve as your Vrekian counterpart," he said. "We will develop these protocols together." He held out his once broken wrist. On Earth, they would shake hands. Among Vrekians, they would grasp forearms. Olivia did both, taking his wrist in a gentle but firm grip. "Our species have much to teach each other," she said. "And much to learn," agreed the commander. "But 4 seconds can change everything." 6 months after the incident, Harmony Point Space Station was transformed. What had started as an experimental training program was now the center for interspecies relations throughout the sector. Dozens of species beyond humans and Vrekians had sent representatives to learn the protocols developed by Lieutenant Olivia Martinez and Commander Czar Kalish. Today was graduation day for the first full class of joint human-Vrekian cadets. The main hall was filled with officials from both worlds. The 12 human and 20 Vrekian cadets stood at attention, their uniforms showing the new combined insignia of both fleets. Olivia stood on the stage beside Commander Czar Kalish. Between them on a small table was a data tablet containing the official interspecies protocol manual they had created together. 6 months ago, a misunderstanding occurred in this very station, began Olivia, addressing the crowd. What could have been a diplomatic disaster instead became an opportunity. We discovered that strength takes many forms, continued Czar Kalish. Vrekians have physical power. Humans have adaptability. Together, we are stronger than either is alone. Captain Boyd stepped forward. Lieutenant Martinez and Commander Czar Kalish will now present the official interspecies protocol manual to representatives of Earth and Vrekia. Olivia picked up the tablet and held it with Czar Kalish. Together, they handed it to the officials who had come forward to receive it. This manual is more than rules, said Olivia. It is a bridge between worlds. A foundation for true alliance, added Czar Kalish. The graduating cadets received their new joint service badges. Peter Jones, now a lieutenant himself, nodded to Olivia from the line. Even Krevor, who had once despised humans, stood proudly as he received his badge. Next, Tora, who had become the second Vrekian human liaison officer, joined Olivia after the ceremony. You changed everything, she said. Both our worlds are different now. It wasn't just me, replied Olivia. It took both sides willing to learn. As the celebration continued, Captain Boyd approached with a serious expression. Lieutenant Commander, he said quietly, we've received an urgent communication. The long-range sensors have detected something approaching from deep space. They followed him to the command center where officers from both species worked side by side. On the main screen was an image of distant space with a small blinking light. What is it? Asked Olivia. Unknown, said a Vrekian officer. But it's large and moving fast. Not matching any known ship pattern from either of our worlds or any allied species. Commander Czar Kalish studied the data. How long until it reaches our sector? 3 months, perhaps less, said Boyd. We're still calculating. Have we tried communicating? Asked Olivia. Yes. No response. The room fell silent as they all understood what this might mean. A new species, possibly hostile, was heading their way. Earth and Vrekia must be informed immediately, said Czar Kalish. This could be a threat to both our worlds. Or a new opportunity, suggested Olivia. Another species to understand and communicate with. Either way, said the commander, we will face it together. He extended his right wrist, the one Olivia had broken 6 months ago. She grasped it firmly, completing the new gesture they had developed that combined the human handshake with the Vrekian respect clasp. Together, agreed Olivia. As they stood watching the distant light on the screen, she thought about how much had changed since that day in the simulation room. 1 slap, 4 seconds, a broken wrist, and now a partnership that might save both their worlds from whatever was coming. Prepare a joint fleet response, ordered Commander Czar Kalish. Human and Vrekian ships working as one. And begin developing possible first contact protocols, added Olivia, based on what we've learned. Their eyes met, sharing the same thought. The misunderstanding that had brought them together had prepared them for this moment. Whatever was coming from deep space would face not 2 separate species, but a united front, humans and Vrekians standing as equals. All because an alien commander slapped a human cadet, and she snapped his wrist in 4 seconds.